Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this stream. So we'll discuss the analysis of the slot two and the overall thing because slot two was almost exactly similar to what slot one was like in terms of split. So जो भी मतलब grammar based questions थे, active voice, passive voice, in terms of blood relations being there, coding based questions, series based questions, SICI, जो भी मतलब whatever I had reported in the afternoon, it seems as if slot two has also been pretty much the same in terms of level of difficulty and in terms of the expectations that people had. So we'll start with the analysis. अभी थोड़ा डिटेल तरीके से बताऊंगा what happened in slot one and slot two के अंदर भी if there is any feedback let me know. But from what I've understood, it's extremely similar. It's extremely similar this thing. Yeah. So just give me a second. I'll just check once if everything is fine. If everything is good, then we can get going. All right. So things should be good. All good. So we'll get going. चलो please. All right, all right. So at the end of this particular presentation, I'll also share the score versus cutoff kind of a grid. तो वो एक बार भी देख लेंगे. What exactly are my thoughts on this particular thing? तो वो भी एक बार देख लेंगे. The numbers are slightly higher compared to Snap 2023. So 24 was apparently slightly more difficult than 23. 23 मैंने खुद नहीं दिया था. But of course, I have the data in terms of score versus percentile. But 24 is what I had taken, and I definitely felt that it was easier than 2024. So एक बार जल्दी से देख लेते हैं what exactly happened in all the sections that are there. And slot 2 के अंदर भी mostly the response has been pretty similar. I don't know about incorrect questions क्योंकि अभी तक incorrect questions के बारे में nobody has told me anything. But more or less we will look at the things that are there, right? Let's see. Let's get going. देखते हैं एक बार. हाँ चलो विल टॉक अबाउट सुयोग उसके बारे में बात करते हैं कि 14th एंड 20th को क्या होगा तो लेट्स सी. बट यहाँ पे अगर देखते हैं तो इन टर्म्स ऑफ आरसी, वीआर एंड वीए, सो रीडिंग कॉम्प्रिहेंशन, वर्बल रीजनिंग एंड वर्बल एबिलिटी, दैट इज बेसिकली हाउ दे स्प्लिट इट. सो ग्रामर में से देयर वर 3 क्वेश्चंस दैट वर देयर एंड अगेन फेयरली स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड. यहाँ पे द टिपिकल ग्रामर क्वेश्चंस डिड नॉट अपीयर कि विच पार्ट ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर सेंटेंस हैज अ ग्रामेटिकल एरर या विच रीस्टेटमेंट विल बी अ बेटर वे टू राइट दिस एंटायर थिंग. तो वैसे सेंटेंस करेक्शन वाले क्वेश्चंस नहीं थे. But the questions were more in terms of what should be the fill in the blanks wala thing. So will someone be working on something or would they have finished working on something? So those kind of questions were there. So contextual grammar wale questions the. They were not exactly questions जहाँ पे you were specifically looking at subject verb agreement या फिर parallelism errors, उस type के errors नहीं थे. It was mostly in terms of what exactly will be the right fit for the sentence. So multiple things might have fit, but the idea is that context में कौन सा वाला fit करा था. That is basically what we are looking at in this particular context. Part of speech के अंदर a question that came in the afternoon slot was basically the one that was there on prepositions. So जब मैं through बोलता हूँ तो what exactly does it mean? So prepositions will talk about the relative position of something with respect to the other. या फिर अगर कोई चीज motion में है तो what exactly is the thing that is happening? That is what we are talking about in terms of preposition. So काफी straightforward सा question था. Again, you could have managed it if you knew what exactly we are looking at. Active voice, passive voice. I also gathered that in the afternoon slot there was, or in the evening slot rather, there was a question on active voice and passive voice. Very very mainstream. In fact, जो mocks में भी solve किया था, it was very similar to what we had solved as well in mocks. Active voice में the subject will talk about something and passive voice के अंदर something was acted upon by the subject. So I am doing this analysis. Active voice अगर है तो I am doing something. तो मैं कर रहा हूँ. That is actively I am doing something. But the analysis is being done by me. So analysis पहले आता है and then we are talking about it. So very straightforward question. थोड़ा बड़ा string था but it was very manageable. Fill in the blanks के 3 questions थे. Now these are not the ones that I'm talking about in terms of grammar, but in terms of what words to expect, what exactly was the thing that we could have looked at. तो उस type के questions is what we are looking at यहाँ पे. And in terms of idioms, again, the idioms that I mentioned in the afternoon, very similar things appeared in the evening slot as well. So afternoon में I had mentioned a rolling stone gathers no moss. इसका मतलब ये होता है that if you keep on chopping and changing things, तो मैंने आज बोला कि चलो मैं आज एक काम करता हूँ, मैं आज ये वाला पॉलिसी डिसीजन रिलीज करता हूँ, tomorrow I will sit and release another policy decision, परसों I will sit and release another policy decision. तो होगा ये that I would have made a lot of policies, I would have made a lot of decisions, but उसका implementation is going to be very bad. So that is basically what I meant in terms of idioms. And honestly speaking, when I started the RCVR VA section, in fact, I spoke to a few people who took it in this slot as well. ऐसा लगने लगा था कि मतलब it is basically a political commentary kind of a thing. कि कुछ चीजें बन रही हैं बट उनको ठीक से नहीं किया जा रहा है, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन इज एन इशू, दोस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स वेयर देयर. तो वो दैट वाज अ फीलिंग दैट आई गॉट एट द वेरी बिगिनिंग ऑफ द सेक्शन. आई डोंट नो इफ यू गाइस आल्सो गॉट इट, बट मेरे को ऐसे लगा, राइट. देन इन टर्म्स ऑफ वोकैबुलरी इफ यू लुक एट इट, 3 क्वेश्चंस थे. एक क्वेश्चन वाज बेस्ड ऑन रूट्स. अगेन आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द फर्स्ट सेशन. यहाँ पे आफ्टरनून में भी मतलब आई हर्ड 3 वोकैबुलरी क्वेश्चंस वेयर देयर. बट आफ्टरनून वाला जो मेरा वाला स्लॉट था उसके अंदर प्रोग्नोस्टिक के अंदर व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ प्रो, तो वो होता है. तो प्रोग्नोसिस जो करते हैं तो बिफोर डायग्नोसिंग या जो भी मतलब जो इट विल बी दी फोर रनर और इट विल बेसिकली बी दी प्रिकर्सर टू व्हाटएवर इज हैपनिंग, दैट काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग. रीजनिंग बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस अगेन फेयरली स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड. वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट कि मतलब कैसे यू विल रीजन कि भाई ये अगर ऐसा है तो इसके बारे में हम ये बोले तो व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज गोइंग टू हैपन, दोस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स. नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट दी नॉन वर्बल रीजनिंग जो एलआर में आता है उसकी बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, बट यहाँ पे वी आर प्योरली टॉकिंग इन टर्म्स ऑफ दी क्वेश्चंस बीइंग रीजनिंग बेस्ड, राइट. व्हाट एग्जैक्टली विल यू थिंक अबाउट या व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज गोइंग टू बी योर रिप्लाई, दैट काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग. स्पेलिंग वाला एक क्वेश्चन था आफ्टरनून स्लॉट के अंदर. आई रिमेंबर दैट क्वेश्चन वाज I forgot what that question was, but it was a very easy question that was there. ओवरहॉल, राइट. ओवरहॉल पे ओवर स्पेस हॉल लिखते हैं या ओवर डैश हॉल लिखते हैं या ओवरहॉल इज अ सिंगल वर्ड, दैट काइंड ऑफ अ क्वेश्चन वाज देयर. सो वो है. मीत हैज आस्क्ड वन क्वेश्चन ऐसे इनफैक्ट ए एंड एलआर में एनालिटिकल एंड लॉजिकल रीजनिंग में 3, 4, 12 and 45. So what was the answer? So typically if you look at it, it's 3 into 1 plus 1, 4 into 2 plus 4, 12 into 3 plus 9, so 45 into 4 plus 16. So if you would have sorry, 45 into 4 plus 16, so 196 answer आना चाहिए. That is the answer, Mitsuha, that is the answer. So into 1 plus 1, into 2 plus 4 which is 2 square, into 3 plus 9 which is 3 square, and into 4 plus 16. So if you had seen the afternoon analysis, तो very similar question appeared in the morning slot as well. So इस हिसाब से काफी consistent था. If you would have heard that and maybe you would have kept that in mind, I think you would have got the answer. But it is what it looks like. तो काफी straightforward से ही questions थे if you look at it. Clocks and calendars, again from what I gathered, it was very similar. 3 questions from clocks and calendars appeared in the evening slot as well. तो मतलब देख तो मैं आई विल गिव इट टू स्नैप. सी एवरीथिंग कांट बी नेगेटिव, राइट. मैं सब चीजों में नेगेटिविटी नहीं बोल सकता कि ये भी खराब है वो भी खराब है वो भी खराब है. दैट इज नॉट हाउ थिंग्स गो. But honestly speaking, I think Snap did a very good job in terms of maintaining parity between the morning slot and the evening slot. अब if they could have done something different is a different question altogether. वो मैं लास्ट में बताऊंगा. But I think it was very very similar in terms of what you took it in the morning and in terms of the afternoon, right? I'll talk about it soon. I'll talk about the expectations from the 14th and the 20th वाला part. एक बार ये वाला कर लेते हैं. Syllogisms, again very straightforward question. Something being something is a possibility. Now that was basically the keyword. Possibility तो हो सकता है. अब यहाँ पे इधर वाले ऑप्शन थे भी नहीं, तो देन it became very easy in terms of syllogisms. को इतना डिफिकल्ट नहीं होगा क्वेश्चन. कॉस्ट एंड इफेक्ट के अंदर व्हाट इज द कॉस्ट, व्हाट इज द इफेक्ट. सो वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट फंडिंग नहीं दे रहे हैं एंड फंडिंग नहीं है करके स्टार्टअप्स बंद हो रहे हैं. So venture capitalist not funding something is the reason behind the startups not functioning well. That is what we are looking at in this particular case. Himanshu, I don't know, matlab, there is a better way to put whatever you have put there. So I don't know how to reply to that thing. I will tell what I have in mind. But ये सारी कसम वसम खाने वाली बात तो I don't know if that will add extra emphasis to whatever I'm doing right now, right? So थोड़ा dramatic हो गया ये. Anyway, course of action के अंदर again very straightforward questions. कि अगर कहीं पे कुछ चीजें खराब हो रही है तो they will tell you that okay this is basically a problem, this is a problem. So एक ब्रिज है जो क्रिटिकल सिचुएशन के अंदर है, पोजीशन में है. So what exactly should you be doing about it? तो उसके ऊपर you can't really keep on functioning with that bridge. So immediately you need to stop that and you need to figure out another way to reach from place A to place B. So as straightforward as that. I don't think course of action में किसी को भी मतलब issue होगा in this particular context. Ethical decision making, as I said, morning में question था. Afternoon में I have not been able to figure out what was the equivalent to that question. So in case someone has it, please let me know. I really hate asking people कि अपना question बताओ और फिर मैं बताता हूँ कि ये क्या है करके. But unfortunately I can't take it in multiple slots. That is the problem. But ethical decision making appeared in the afternoon slot. Evening वाले में अगर कुछ आया तो let me know. And afternoon slot का ethical decision making, for those of you who were not there, the question was fairly straightforward. You are standing in a line and you are at a cafeteria and you are supposed to grab a coffee and you are getting late for office. That kind of a setup है. And what happens is तुम्हारे सामने वाला बंदा जो है वो अपना फोन भूल के चला जाता है. नाउ व्हाट विल यू डू? सो एक तो मतलब था कि कुछ मत करो, अपने को क्या करना है, अपने क्या लेना देना, राइट? दैट इज बेसिकली व्हाट इट वाज। द सेकंड थिंग इज, मतलब ठीक है, जो भी है, you take the phone and just do we keep it with you, that kind of a thing. The third thing was basically, you take the phone and put it on your local social media, alerting that मुझे ऐसा कुछ मिला है करके. And the fourth thing was, you basically tell the barista कैसा सा phone गिरा हुआ है and let them handle the situation. So the idea was, I marked barista wala option purely because situation ये था that the person who has lost their phone will not go to social media to figure out मेरा phone कहाँ चला गया करके. They might want to retrace their footsteps and go back to the places that they visited, जिसमें से कैफेटेरिया होना चाहिए. उसके बाद barista might have access to, or barista or the backend staff might have access to the CCTV footage अगर है तो that is basically where the probability of the person meeting the thing is the highest, right? तो मैं बेकार में उसको लेके मैं अलग अपना एक ट्रैक क्यों बनाऊं? दैट वाज बेसिकली द आइडिया. बट आई डोंट नो इफ आफ्टरनून के अंदर देयर वाज समथिंग दैट वाज देयर. या, लेट्स सी. So good. Then, in terms of critical reasoning, there were 4 questions: strengthening the argument, weakening the argument, which of the following is an assumption that is implicit. So these kind of questions you looked at. Again, very simple, very straightforward. तो ये था. Candidly and credible. Yes, Priya. I think that was the answer to the fill in the blanks question that you are asking about. Again, similar thing, right? Candidly. तो मेरे को adverb use करना था. Now it can be misconstrued as a grammar question, but it was technically not a grammar based question. भले ही उसमें adverb की जरूरत थी, but very manageable question per se. In terms of series, 4 questions थे. The series that has been mentioned here right now, which was 3, 4, 12, 45, and uska answer was 196. Very similar questions appeared in the morning slot as well. Generally थोड़ा nested logic था. It was not as if +2, +3, +4, +5 उतना straightforward logic नहीं था. Neither was the logic very complicated, like 2 raised to 0 plus 2 raised to 1 plus 2 raised to 0 plus 3 raised to 1 plus 4 raised to 2. सेकेंड वाले में 3 raised to 0 plus 4 raised to 1 plus 5 raised to 2. ऐसे वाले गैप्स नहीं थे. द पेपर सेटर्स वर नॉट जेन्युइनली इविल. तो सीरीज वाले क्वेश्चंस भी काफी मैनेजेबल थे. I don't think all the 4 questions were unattemptable, right? Or I would not say, chalo, more than one question was unattemptable, is what I would say. In terms of arrangements, again, very similar. Floors and the people and lines and people sitting on the leftmost position separated by 2, those kind of questions, very manageable questions. Blood relations के अंदर again the same thing happened in the afternoon slot from what I gathered. There was a question that was based on blood relations plus coding decoding. So C percentage D dash E, and you have to figure out in which of these things is C the brother-in-law of E, that kind of a thing. So again, very manageable thing. Binary logic, there was a question in the morning slot, sorry, in the afternoon slot. Evening wala, I'm not very sure of what the equivalent was, but knights, knaves, and spy wala question tha. One person is speaking the truth, one person is definitely speaking a lie, and there is a third person जो अपने को पता नहीं truth teller है कि liar है. So then there was coding decoding वाले questions, very simple string based questions. I did not see any word based questions. So in a certain language, blood is coded as CMPPE. वैसे वाले questions नहीं थे. It was basically in certain language, water is wet is coded as abaka, that kind of a thing. Those kind of questions were there. In terms of QA, DI, DS, again, very, I think the split was absolutely the same in the afternoon and the evening slot. So arithmetic के 7 questions. Again, I heard about a question on SICI का difference, profit and loss का question. Again, I heard the same thing which I had heard in the which I had mentioned in the afternoon slot. Time and work with straightforward numbers, that was there. And in terms of बेसिक परसेंटेज प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस, सिंपल क्वेश्चंस, राइट? अलजेब्रा के अंदर भी बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड क्वेश्चंस नहीं थे, सिंपल लीनियर इक्वेशन वाले क्वेश्चंस. वी वर आल्सो लुकिंग एट क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशंस जो शायद मैनेजेबल होते. वन क्वेश्चन दैट आई सॉ इन द मॉर्निंग व्हिच वाज द मिनिमम ऑफ अ क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन, दैट माइट हैव बीन अ डिफिकल्ट वन फॉर पीपल जिन्होंने कैट के लिए बहुत अग्रेसिवली प्रिपेयर नहीं किया था, राइट? सो दैट इज व्हाट वी आर लुकिंग एट. In terms of modern math, again permutations and combinations, counting वाले questions made an appearance in the afternoon slot. And of course sequence series wala questions were there. Number theory के अंदर again we are looking at LCM, HCF and remainder based questions that were there. ठीक है? Okay. Overhaul, I think overhaul is one word, not separated by a dash, from what I know. Right? So overhaul is one word. It's not over dash haul. It's overhaul without any spaces, without any hyphen. Now in terms of observations, अब आते हैं मेन बात पे. So see, for people who are going to take it in on the 14th and the 20th as well, for all those of you, एक चीज बहुत ही clearly बताता हूँ that there is not going to be a big variance in terms of level of difficulty. यार देखो snap पहले तो normalization करता नहीं है. I don't know why they do this. मतलब the argument for this is कि यार ठीक है, people have, मैं एकदम चलो मैं बताता हूँ, मेरा एक बहुत अच्छा मतलब मैं दिल का बहुत साफ हूँ and I want to ensure that everybody gets a fair chance. So I will ensure that people are not getting affected just because of one bad day. इसके लिए मैंने बोला है कि 3 बार में से कोई भी बार दे दो, तुम्हारी मर्जी, एक बार दोगे तो भी चलेगा, बट देन इट्स बेटर फॉर यू टू टेक इट थ्राइस. अब ऐसे कौन बोलता है, इफ यू डू इट देन ऑफ कोर्स यू विल वांट टू टेक इट थ्राइस. फिर तुम बोलते हैं मैं नॉर्मलाइजेशन नहीं करने वाला, बिकॉज आई हैव एंश्योर्ड दैट एवरीथिंग इज ऑफ द सेम लेवल. एवरीथिंग कैन नॉट बी ऑफ द सेम लेवल. You create one set of 60 questions, another set of 60 questions. Obviously, these two sets are going to be different unless you are the same questions. जो again एक chaotic चीज है, right? So of course there are going to be differences that are there, which means there has to be normalization. But नहीं normalization हो रहा, ठीक है, fine. My other question is, यार 6 दिन में क्यों रख रहे हो एग्जाम फिर? If you are feeling so bad about people not being able to perform well the first time around, keep it at a gap of 2 months. 2 महीने के बाद देने दो लोगों को वो करके. So why have this thing happening in the 15 days, right? Doesn't make any sense. But chalo jo bhi hai, whatever, doesn't matter. Whatever we say, I don't think is going to matter a lot. So that is basically the idea here. So easy questions hai, and I am sure that 14th and 20th are going to be very similar to what we did today. So people who are going to be experienced after today's attempt, I am sure you will have some advantage when it comes to the 14th and the 20th, because you will see something similar. Having said that, will the level of difficulty be absolutely the same? I don't think so. थोड़ा सा वेरियंस होगा. आई एम नॉट सेइंग डिफिकल्टी होगा, बट यार इससे इजी शायद हो भी नहीं सकता ऑनेस्टली. मतलब द पॉइंट ऑफ अ टेस्ट इज दैट some people should be able to attempt all 60 questions in 60 minutes. That is basically my point. And there should be a gap between people who solve 60 questions, people who solve 55 questions, people who solve 50 questions, and so on. तो वो होना ही चाहिए. The questions should be foolproof. There should not be any errors per se. एक error तो मेरे को दिखाई दिया in the afternoon slot. I don't know in the evening slot if there were any errors. किसी ने report नहीं किया है, but this is what it looks like, right? But I don't see the level of difficulty changing dramatically. तो ऐसे नहीं होगा कि 14th का टेस्ट एकदम difficult हो जाएगा, 20th का difficult होगा. No, I don't think so. That will happen. In an ideal world, they should have designed all 6 papers at the beginning itself before slot 1 happened. राइट. तो वो आई एम श्योर दे वुड हैव वर्कड ऑन दोस थिंग्स. तो वो मेरे को नहीं लग रहा इतना इशू होगा. यू विल सी वेरी सिमिलर क्वेश्चंस अपीयरिंग, नॉट द सेम क्वेश्चंस ऑफ कोर्स, बट सिमिलर क्वेश्चंस, सिमिलर टाइप्स आ सकते हैं. सो लुक एट द ऑब्जर्वेशंस वेल. I'll try to create a session before your next snap, which will cover the question types that we encountered today, so that you are mentally prepared to deal with that. Contrary to popular opinion, because snap is a speed test, ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है कि तुम्हारा accuracy can be lower. Your accuracy needs to be higher. I will say that in this kind of a test, it needs to be almost 90%. क्यों 90% बोल रहा हूं मैं? Because there is very less verbal वाले questions, जहां पे RC वाले questions है, let's say जिसमें थोड़ा abstract reasoning है, जिसमें थोड़ा inferential nature आता है. तो those kind of questions we have not seen. They are mostly direct questions that are there, right? So मैं अगर पढ़ूंगा तो मेरे को आंसर आ जाएगा more or less. That is the observation that I had. In terms of vocabulary, either you don't know it or you don't know it. दोनों में से एक है. तो ऐसा कुछ तीसरा पाथ नहीं है कि if I give more time, then maybe I will be able to somehow get the meaning of the word. ऐसा तो नहीं है. या तो आता है तो नहीं आता. Those kind of things. So accuracy will definitely be high. I would expect it to be around 90%. That is my number. But around 85% is also okay, I would say. Attempts, if you are seriously looking at SIBM, SCMHRD only, तो मैं 50 की बात करूंगा. Of course, if you are looking at colleges like SIBM Bangalore, SIIB, SIOM, और भी नीचे अगर जाते हो तो से SIMS, SIMC, SSBF, ये सारे SIDTM, अगर ये सारे colleges देख रहे हो, then your attempts can be around 45ish. But I will want most of you to attempt around 50 questions. That is going to be my suggestion. Don't waste time overthinking. जैसे ethical dilemma वाले question के अंदर बहुत सोचते मत बैठना. जितना सोचोगे उतना लगेगा कि यार ये भी ठीक है, वो भी ठीक है. Because there was no harm in I taking the phone and keeping things in my control. And अगर मेरे से कुछ नहीं होता तो मैं जाके वापस बरिस्ता को दे देता. तो that would have been ideal. But I don't know. बरिस्ता को दिया और बरिस्ता ने अगर वो फोन गायब कर दिया तो then how do I ensure that the right action has happened करके. तो ये सब चीजें ओवरथिंक करने से दिमाग में आना शुरू हो जाती है. So please don't overthink about anything. अगर लग रहा है कि यार obvious नहीं आंसर, mark it for review, go on with your life and then come back. ठीक है. अगर टाइम बचता है एंड में, इन दी रेयर पॉसिबिलिटी दैट यू हैव टाइम लेफ्ट, एंड आई नो क्वाइट अ फ्यू पीपल जिन्होंने टेस्ट को 60 मिनट्स के पहले खत्म किया हुआ है. खत्म किया मतलब दे हैव अटेम्प्टेड एवरीथिंग टू द बेस्ट ऑफ देयर एबिलिटी. अब वो सही है गलत इज अ डिफरेंट स्टोरी, How many will they get right is a different story. But people have finished 60 questions within 60 minutes. So if you have time left, to make sure that you are rechecking your answers. हर एक ऑप्शन को मार्क करने के पहले एक बार देख लो, बिकॉज एक्यूरेसी एज इज पैरामाउंट. कहीं पे अगर दिया होगा कि व्हाट इज द परसेंटेज ऑफ मिल्क इन द सॉल्यूशन एंड यू एंड अप मार्किंग द परसेंटेज ऑफ वाटर इन द सॉल्यूशन, थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा. तो मेक श्योर दैट यू आर रीडिंग द क्वेश्चन स्टेम वेरी केयरफुली. सम क्वेश्चंस माइट बी रॉन्ग. देयर इज अ वेरी हाई चांस दैट एक दो क्वेश्चंस गलत होंगे या गलत तुमको लगेंगे हैं करके. डोंट पैनिक अबाउट इट, डोंट स्टार्ट डाउटिंग योरसेल्फ. देयर इज अ चांस दैट क्वेश्चंस माइट बी रॉन्ग एंड इट्स अ सैड रियलिटी ऑफ लाइफ कि यार मतलब तुम कर रहे हो 120 क्वेश्चन या 60 क्वेश्चन से टेस्ट बना रहे हो. हाउ हार्ड इज इट टू गिव 60 क्वेश्चन जिसमें एरर्स नहीं है, कंसिडरिंग दैट यू चार्ज पीपल सो मच. उसके बाद तो यू कांट रियली हैव एनी एक्सक्यूजेस, बट ठीक है जो भी है. सम क्वेश्चंस माइट बी रॉन्ग, सो बी मेंटली प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर दोस एज वेल. Typically, the most straightforward logic will work. Don't try to get into overthinking and looking at some abstract situations. अरे ये भी possible है, वो हुआ तो क्या, ये हुआ तो क्या. Don't get into those things. Keep it as simple as is possible, and I think you should be good, right? And don't take questions on face value. दो examples है मेरे पास in the morning slot और afternoon slot, sorry not morning. Afternoon slot जो मैंने दिया था 2 to 3 वाला, उसमें मेरे पास दो examples हैं to tell you this. One thing is what I am telling you in terms of trigonometry. तो एक क्वेश्चन था tan थीटा प्लस cot थीटा इक्वल्स 4. नाउ जैसे ही पीपल वुड हैव सीन tan थीटा प्लस cot थीटा इक्वल्स 4, उनको टेंशन हो गया होगा कि ये ट्रिग्नोमेट्री का क्वेश्चन कहां से आ गया, मैंने ट्रिग्नोमेट्री पढ़ा ही नहीं है. ये सब चीजें लोगों ने सोचना शुरू कर दिया होगा. बट आई डोंट थिंक मतलब यू नीड ए ट्रिग्नोमेट्री टू सॉल्व इट. हाँ, थोड़ा बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग चाहिए था, आई अग्री, कि tan थीटा एंड cot थीटा आर इनवर्स ऑफ ईच अदर, ये पता होना चाहिए था. बट इफ यू न्यू दैट बेसिक फैक्ट, you would have been able to solve that question within a matter of seconds, because this was a question जिसका एक बहुत complicated version CAT में आया था. So if you have solved CAT 23 वाला test, I am sure you would know this particular thing that is there, which is x plus 1 by x का value अगर 4 है, तो x square plus 1 by x square का value क्या आएगा, as simple as that. So वो वाला एक क्वेश्चन था. दूसरा क्वेश्चन था रिमाइंडर्स के ऊपर. 7 raised to 101 डिवाइडेड बाय 48 का रिमाइंडर क्या आएगा, राइट? A lot of people sat and thought कि यार ये रिमाइंडर थ्योरम, ये रिमाइंडर का क्वेश्चन आ गया, मैंने ऑयलर्स पढ़ा ही नहीं, मेरे को फॉर्मास पता ही नहीं, ये सब चीजें शुरू हो गई. यू डिडंट नीड ऑयलर एंड फॉर्मा टू सॉल्व दिस. 7 स्क्वायर डिवाइडेड बाय 48 1 आएगा, तो 7 स्क्वायर के ग्रुप बनाते जाओगे, बचेगा सिर्फ एक ही लास्ट में, विच इज 7. दैट इज बेसिकली योर आंसर. सो मेक श्योर दैट यू आर नॉट टेकिंग क्वेश्चंस ऑन फेस वैल्यू. एक और एग्जांपल है, चलो लॉगरिथम्स का. You could have just substituted the value of x from the options and seen कि कहाँ पे काम कर रहा है. That's it. You need not solve the entire thing. So don't take questions on face value and you should be fine. अगर लग रहा है complicated है, leave it at that point in time, but come back to it. And come back to it later. But come back to it and come back to it later if you have time left. But I am sure you will be able to handle it. अब आता है धमाकेदार slide. I know people are going to lose their minds, but this is basically what I think is going to happen. In terms of the cutoffs for SIBM, SCMHRD, generally 98, 98.5 के आसपास होते हैं. So my number for this year is going to be around 45 marks. I won't be surprised अगर SIBM, SCMHRD का cutoff 44, 45 तक जाता है तो, right? And this is slightly higher than what happened in terms of SNAP 2023. SNAP 24 से ही थोड़ा easy था. That's why the numbers have slightly grown compared to SNAP 23. SNAP 24. Because SNAP 24 I had also taken same slot, same scenario, same situation. And I had definitely found SNAP 24 to be slightly more difficult compared to what I found it today. उस टाइम पे मेरे को SNAP 24 भी easy लगा था honestly, but comparatively if you look at it, I think SNAP 25 was much easier, shorter. I will not say easier, चलो मैं easier नहीं बोलूंगा, but I will say shorter. Last day there were some very nice tricky questions from critical reasoning जहां पे I was not very sure कि यार आंसर क्या होगा करके. But आज ऐसा हुआ नहीं, that critical reasoning was not exactly very challenging today. Options were far apart. The question stems were to the point and very solid, I would say. तो लास्ट टाइम जैसा थोड़ा एम्बिग्यूटी वाले क्वेश्चंस नहीं थे. लास्ट टाइम इवन क्वांट के अंदर आई वाज नॉट वेरी श्योर ऑफ अ कपल ऑफ क्वेश्चंस. एक क्वेश्चन मेरे को याद है, विच वाज स्लाइटली ट्विस्टेड वन, कि if a clock rings 6 times 6 or whatever shows 5 o'clock in 6 seconds, तो 10 o'clock में कितना टाइम लगेगा, that kind of a thing. But I didn't see any very tricky questions like that today, so that's why मेरा expectation है थोड़ा सा बढ़ेगा, right? So yeah, let's see what people have to say. A square plus B square, yeah Himanshu, that was exactly what needed to be done. And the answer was that I will keep it for a few minutes. Okay, 47 जाएगा कट ऑफ, इट सीम्स, एटलीस्ट ऑन द बेस ऑफ स्लॉट वन. आदित, आई विल गिव यू वन मोर इसका हाइपोथेसिस, क्यों मैं थोड़ा सा कम कर रहा हूं. मतलब आई कुड हैव गॉन ऑल अग्रेसिव एंड सेड कि नहीं नहीं यार, मतलब डेफिनेटली 50 जाएगा कट ऑफ करके, बट आई डोंट बिलीव इट प्योरली बिकॉज द क्वालिटी ऑफ पीपल टेकिंग द स्नैप इज स्लाइटली लोअर कंपेयर टू द क्वालिटी ऑफ पीपल हु इज टेकिंग द कैट. नो ऑफेंस टू एनी इंस्टीट्यूट, नो ऑफेंस टू एनीवन टेकिंग द टेस्ट, बट फैक्ट ऑफ लाइफ ये है दैट SIBM इज नॉट an aspirational college for someone who is only looking at ABC, LIK or Excel or FMS, right? तो उनके लिए SIBM, SCMHRD might be backups or they might not be even in their consideration set. So मेरा ideal यहाँ पे जो correlation होता है, that is basically someone who has scored a 95, 96 percentile in CAT or someone who would have scored around the 240, 250 का score in the NMAT. अगर ये लोग आगे स्नैप देने बैठ जाए ना, इनका पक्का SIBM, SCMHRD हो जाना चाहिए, is my understanding. तो वो मेरा benchmarking है. So people who are at 96ish percentile, 95ish percentile should ideally take snap and should get through to the next round as well. तो वो हिसाब से मैं बोल रहा हूँ. कैट के 99.5 percentiles जनरली स्नैप देने जाएंगे भी नहीं. इनफैक्ट यू वुड हैव सीन द क्वालिटी ऑफ पीपल हु टेक और हु एनालाइज द टेस्ट एज वेल, राइट? कैट के टाइम पे जितना बैंड बाजा करके लोगों ने एनालिसिस किया था, आई डोंट थिंक पीपल रियली लाइक टेकिंग स्नैप एज वेल, इवन द मेंटर्स. सो आई हैव सीन ओनली अ फ्यू मेंटर्स टेक द स्नैप रिलीजियसली, डिलीजेंटली, बट बाकी तो यार मतलब मोस्टली तो सब हियर से पे ही काम करते हैं कि इसने मुझे ऐसे बोला, इसके लिए मेरा एनालिसिस ये करके. इनफैक्ट आई सॉ सम पीपल मेंशनिंग दैट स्लॉट वन में आरसी आ गया था जो मैंने देखा नहीं. तो मतलब द क्वालिटी इज दैट बैड, टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट. सो ऑल सेड एंड डन, दैट्स व्हाई आई एम नॉट इन्फ्लेटिंग इट बाय अ लार्ज अमाउंट. अगर कैट का पूरा पॉपुलेशन आके अगर स्नैप देने बैठ जाता, आई वुड हैव पुट द नंबर एट स्लाइटली हायर, बट कंसिडरिंग दैट अ सिग्निफिकेंट पार्ट ऑफ द serious cat cohort will not be competing, I think that the cutoffs will be something very similar to what I have mentioned. That is my logic. अब मेरा गलत हो सकता है आंसर, बट रीजनिंग तो यही है मेरा. ठीक है, तो इसलिए मेरे को 47 नहीं लग रहा है. आई स्टिल थिंक इट्स गोइंग टू बी अराउंड 44, 45. बहुत ज्यादा ऊपर जाएगा ऐसा मेरे को नहीं लग रहा. ठीक है, हिमांशु, Himanshu, you can drop us a mail maybe, or if you are a part of the Telegram channel, you can maybe DM me or something. अगर बहुत ही छोटा कुछ है तो मेरे को बताओ. But if you want a detailed session, then you can book a top mate thing. That I think will help. Yeah, XDUT boy 6698. I will be making some videos based on the things that we studied today. तो वो करेंगे. एक PNC का 144 था ना. Priya, I don't know. Priya, talking about the second slot क्या? If you can tell me the question, so I can answer it. Block answer was 4 in the first slot, and Priya, if you are saying second slot, if you have taken it in the 4:30 to 5:30 wala slot, if you can, again at the risk of contradicting myself, can you post the question so that I can answer the question, right? But honestly, guys, please help Priya if you guys can think of something. 144 या 3 आंसर था, तो प्लीज let her know. email ID Himanshu, it's contact@point99.co.in. उस पर you can ask, या फिर I think Telegram is a much faster way to reach out. तो दोनों में से कुछ कर सकते. Was the second slot का LR time consuming? Tejaswita, I don't think so. I don't think I have heard anyone complain about the level of difficulty of the test. Whoever has said anything about the test, सबने वही बोला है कि यार मतलब काफी मैनेजेबल था, इजी था, 50 और अटेम्प्ट बन सकते थे. दैट इज जनरली द बेंचमार्क, एंड पीपल शुड हैव डन वेल. मतलब उतना प्रोपोर्शन तो होगा जिन्होंने अच्छा काम किया होगा. We are practically looking at what we are looking at around 2000 people, right? So that is basically why 98 percentile. Typically around 1 lakh people appear for the snap is what I have gathered. But उसमें से मतलब we are looking at the top 2000ish people, and there are no sectional cutoff, no nothing. So we are looking at the absolute 2000 top people who would have taken the snap. तो वो हो. Okay, so Dash is saying there was a question जहाँ पे 4 women and 2 men are there and 2 men are sitting together, very similar to the Delhi वाला question from the first slot. So the answer there is going to be 4 women and 2 men है and 2 men are sitting together. It will basically be 5 factorial into 4 factorial 2 factorial something ऐसे कुछ आएगा. That is the नहीं sorry 5 factorial into 2 factorial, I think that is what it will be, is my understanding. ठीक है, PNC वाले क्या क्या थे in slot 1? Dante, as I mentioned, ये वाला Delhi वाला एक question था. In how many ways can you rearrange the letters of the word Delhi such that the vowels are together? 4 factorial into 2 factorial, I believe. And in terms of the other question, एक question था in terms of there are management graduates and there are engineers. 50% of 60% of the people are engineering graduates, 40% are management graduates, 30% of the engineers are also MBAs. and 50% of the management graduates do also have another masters. So if you pick a person randomly from this group, what is the probability that the person either is an engineering plus management graduate, or someone who is a management graduate plus some other degree? So I think 0.38 था उसका answer, not very sure. Okay, Dash is saying 4 women and 2 men, all women are together. So the answer then will be 3 factorial upon 3 factorial into 4 factorial. So yeah, 144 should be the answer, I think. तो आंसर ठीक होना चाहिए. If 4 women 2 men है तो. अच्छा, could not sit together. Okay. So could not sit together में it will be 6 factorial minus 144. Which will be जो भी कुछ आता है. I don't know. ठीक है. And Ashwin is saying, do you think the difficulty would vary in the next 2 snap exams? I don't think so. Ashwinan, sorry. Ashwinan, I don't think the difficulty should vary in the next 2 slots as well. काफी similar होना चाहिए. Last year का benchmark अगर मैं पकड़ता हूँ तो last year reportedly the first slot was slightly easier compared to the second and third slot. Not because of any empirical evidence, but because जिन्होंने भी 2 या 3 attempts दिए थे, सबका first वाला ही मतलब consider किया गया था because it was the highest score. So chances are that this might be the next 2 slots might be slightly एक दो क्वेश्चन ऊपर नीचे करके they might try to maybe game the system a bit so that people are taking it later should not feel कि मेरे को बहुत advantage मिल गया करके. तो वैसे कुछ करने की कोशिश कर सकते हैं, but for all practical purposes I think it will be reasonably similar, I would say. इससे बहुत difficult आएगा ऐसा मेरे को लगा. And there is no normalization. So kahani wala lens, there is no normalization. What if the next 2 slots come hard? Then मतलब यार SIU के सामने धरना धरने से ज्यादा और कुछ कर नहीं सकते, because everything is subjective. These people don't really show the response sheets, so there is no way to figure out कि अब किसका गलती है करके. That is generally the problem. अब वो accountability को लेके थोड़ा issue तो है, मतलब उसका भी, उसके लिए तो I'll make something else, but there is nothing that stops them from doing it, by the way. मतलब technically, legally, there is nothing that stops them from delivering 2 difficult tests in slot 2 and slot 3. But faith, goodwill, bad press, all these are supposed to be deterrents, जिसकी वजह से there is enough motivation to believe that slot 2 and slot 3 are also going to be very similar to what slot 1 was. तो बहुत difficult नहीं आएगा. It doesn't work for them as well. उनका भी नाम खराब हो जाएगा. So it doesn't work. It doesn't augur well for Snap as well. तो नहीं होगा. I'm reasonably sure about it, but there is, of course, there is always a probability for everything, right? So there is a very minuscule chance that 2 and 3 might be difficult, but नहीं हो. From my experience, they will not play that card. ठीक है. 47 attempts, accuracy of 90%. Yoshio 47 का 90% कितना होता है? 47 निकाल दिया ना, कितना होता है? 470, 423, right? So 42 correct, 4 wrong. 42 correct, 5 wrong, which is 40.75. I think वही है, थोड़ा 96ish 97ish percentile है. According to the table, तो this thing looks difficult. SCMHRD looks difficult to me. 2.5% प्रॉफिट था, आई अग्री. इसका रिजल्ट कब तक आएगा ओमकार? इसका रिजल्ट का टाइम लगता है, मतलब पहले तो स्लॉट 2 स्लॉट 3 सब हो जाएंगे, उसके बाद यू कैन एक्सपेक्ट द रिजल्ट टू कम आउट ईदर बाय दी, नहीं, आई थिंक जैन फर्स्ट वीक के आसपास ही आएगा रिजल्ट, उसके पहले तो नहीं आएगा. आई डोंट थिंक द रिजल्ट इज कमिंग एनी टाइम सून, या फिर मिड जैन तक आएगा रिजल्ट. इनफैक्ट आई डोंट थिंक इट्स कमिंग एनी टाइम सून. Karun is saying usually people take all 3 slots, or how? Any analysis have you done on it? Karun, बहुत सारे लोग 3 slot नहीं देते. A lot of people take 2 slots. First and last देते generally. That is the most common combination that I have seen. First वाला is taken by almost everybody. So second and third में थोड़ा thin हो जाएगा attendance. That is how it has usually been perceived in the past. तो ऐसा नहीं होगा कि that all 3 slots are taken by the equal number of people. तो होता है. Yeah, Jan 9th is what Ayush is saying. So that is when the results will be out. I think NMAT comes slightly later, but हाँ, मतलब you can expect result to come after that. उसके पहले तो नहीं आएगा कुछ भी. तो वो होता है. And typically people take first and third slot in general. बहुत सारे लोग देते हैं. But having said that, if you have money to burn, and if you have really if you really think of SIBM as a dream college, then a lot of people will go for 3 attempts as well. तो करते तो हैं. ठीक है. And what percentile does SCMHRD release calls? मतलब exact number generally देते नहीं है वो लोग, but the assumption is that the historical जो भी number has been around 98ish percentile. Typically, if you are above 98.5 percentile, you are reasonably safe. 98 पे it may or may not happen. So that is the number that we have. NMIMS college is not good. Uday depends on what you are comparing it with. If you are comparing it with ABC, to not good. If you are comparing it with some colleges in the 80, 85, 90%, then good. उसके pros हैं, cons हैं. Batch size is huge, so placements becomes difficult. The process is not exactly candidate friendly. It is an expensive affair. They do not have a residential campus. On the other hand, positive चीजें बात करें तो NMIMS is a big brand. They have a very big presence in Mumbai. NMIMS यूनिवर्सिटी जो भी SVKM वाले जो भी इंस्टीट्यूट है उनका सिनर्जी है थोड़ा. So that is a good thing. Reputation है इंडस्ट्री के अंदर. It's an old college, legacy है. So all those things are there. So some things work in their favor, something works against them. So it depends on what you are looking at in terms of the experience. So I never applied to NMAT in the first place because मेरे को मुंबई में रहना नहीं था, रेसिडेंशियल कैंपस नहीं था. I didn't really have a lot of money to pay off the hostel fees and all. मतलब I could have taken a loan and everything, but मेरे को नहीं करना था मतलब. तो and plus I was doing well at the mocks. तो सारे सबूतों और गवाहों को मद्देनजर रखते हुए कोर्ट इस नतीजे पर पहुंची थी कि मुझे एनमैट नहीं देना चाहिए. सो इफ इट वर्क्स द सेम वे इन योर केस, देन डोंट टेक द एनमैट. अदरवाइज एनमैट इज अ फाइन कॉलेज. शिफ्ट टू वेरी वेरी सिमिलर वीरेन. आई डोंट थिंक कुछ भी ये था. इनफैक्ट आई हर्ड समवन सेइंग कि स्लॉट 2 वाज इजियर देन स्लॉट 1. आई डोंट थिंक एनीथिंग कैन बी इजियर देन स्लॉट 1 बाय द वे. तो मतलब आई डोंट थिंक कुछ भी डिफरेंस था. इट वाज वेरी सिमिलर. मतलब आई केप्ट ऑन हियरिंग वेरी सिमिलर सेंटिमेंट्स from the students in both the slots. So I interacted with a few people after my test was done from slot 1 and again in slot 2. तो very similar sentiments. मतलब the way in which they spoke was eerily similar, I would say. मेरे को 2 सेकंड के लगा कि यार सेम क्वेश्चन तो नहीं दे दिया. वो मेरे को लगा 2 सेकंड के लिए. It was that similar. But thankfully that was not the case. So but eerily similar. Eerily similar. हाँ, Kunal is saying quant 2 का shift 2 का QA were on the easier side as compared to slot 1. But Kunal यार I don't think so. मतलब slot 1 का QA was also not very difficult. काफी manageable था. मतलब अगर see if there are some questions that are extremely difficult, I will know क्या थोड़े difficult questions हैं. But out of 20, 15, 16 are very straightforward. 3-4 क्वेश्चन में तुमको थोड़ा फाइट मारना पड़ना चाहिए. It's not as if everything should be doable, right? There has to be some difficult questions as well. But even those difficult questions you could have managed even if you had done a decent job preparing for the CAT. So because of that, I think it was not very difficult. Okay. Okay. How is SIBM Bangalore and SIIB? Again, Viren, it depends on what you are comparing it with. SIBM Bangalore, SIIB are both competent options, I would say. So it depends on what you are earning at this point in time. Now, if let's say for example you are someone who has a job and if you are let's say earning somewhere in the 5 lakh 6 lakh 7 lakh कि अगर इसमें हो तो फिर I will advise you to maybe look at slightly better colleges. मतलब चलो I will at least want to look at a 2x in hand if I am making that kind of an investment. I know it's a very crude number that I am putting here, but यार 2x तो होना चाहिए ना मेरा जो भी सैलरी मेरे को मिल रहा है. तो अगर मैं अपना जॉब छोड़ के सब कुछ छोड़ के 2 साल के लिए प्रिपेयर करके फिर आई एम गेटिंग इनटू समथिंग एंड देन आई एम गेटिंग ओनली 10, 15, 20% इंक्रीमेंट और 50% इंक्रीमेंट, इट डजंट मेक सेंस. इट शुड एटलीस्ट डबल योर सैलरी. बट अभी मतलब जॉब मिलने में बहुत फाइट है. योर अकाउंट्स आर नॉट ग्रेट. देयर इज नो वे दैट यू कैन अप्लाई एंड गेट अ जॉब. देन you can also settle for an 8 LPA, 9 LPA, 10 LPA institute. SIIB, SIBM Bangalore will be slightly above that 10 ka thing. So from what my understanding is their averages will be somewhere between the 10 to 12 kind of a thing. वो भी थोड़ा सा I will be wary of those numbers as well. But I would want to place it at somewhere around 10, 11, 12 LPA. Although the reported figures are around 13, 14, but merely realistic number will be around 11ish, 12ish, which basically means an in hand of around 70,000 kind of a thing. So if you are okay with that kind of a number, if that means a lot to you, then very well go for SIBM Bangalore, SIIB. Otherwise, तो यार मतलब you can think about other things in life as well. Yeah, I did something with my hand. ठीक है. Okay, Priya is clearly asking about slot 2K questions, which I am very ill equipped to answer. But 168000, that was the answer it seems. किसी ने अगर किया होगा तो please help Priya. मॉर्निंग स्लॉट का मेरे को आंसर पता है. इट वाज 15,000 इफ आई रिमेंबर करेक्टली. 150 का डिफरेंस बिटवीन SI and CI 10% वाला. 3150 and 3000. That would have been the SI and CI. Yeah, Arav is saying 15 minutes left after completing the test. Yeah, welcome to the club, Arav. A lot of people have told me that. So मतलब see, completing the test doesn't mean that you have got everything right, right? ऐसा नहीं है, but you have done the best you could. उससे ज्यादा टाइम मेरे को मिला तो भी मैं अपने आंसर चेंज नहीं करूंगा. It's something like that. So when someone says कि they completed the test within 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, it doesn't mean that they are getting 60 on 60. It basically means that you have done the best that you could. फिर क्या करोगे? The problem with these kind of tests is that तो मेरा edge चला जाता है. अगर आज के टेस्ट के अंदर 100 क्वेश्चंस होते ना, आई वुड हैव बीन द हैप्पीएस्ट पर्सन कमिंग आउट ऑफ द सेंटर, बिकॉज आई नो दैट 100 क्वेश्चंस बहुत सारे लोग नहीं करते. इवन आई वुड हैव अ टारगेट टू लुक फॉरवर्ड टू. बट यार मतलब अब हो ये रहा है दैट अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल विल डू 60 एंड कम बैक. अगेन इट बिकम्स अ शूट आउट. अगेन इट बेसिकली बिकम्स यार मैंने एक क्वेश्चन में कुछ मार्क किया, तुमने एक क्वेश्चन में कुछ और मार्क किया, एंड दैट बिकम्स माई मार्जिन, एंड दैट इज नॉट समथिंग दैट इज अ वेरी हेल्दी थिंग एज वेल. बट ठीक है, मतलब व्हाट टू डू, वी आर इन द मिडल ऑफ दिस, तो कुछ कर नहीं सकते. तो वो है. ट्विंकल आई गेव ना, वो एडवाइस तो मेरा यही है, दी वन ऑन द प्रीवियस स्लाइड. या दिस इज बेसिकली माई एडवाइस. सो यू कैन जस्ट गो बैक 15-20 मिनट्स एंड सी, तो उससे आ जाएगा. अच्छा ओ, ज्योमेट्री का आंसर 168,000. नहीं, मेरे को तो 88 कुछ आया उसका आंसर. 22/7 इंटू 7 इंटू 7 इंटू 1 इंटू 1000. सो नहीं, कुछ तो गड़बड़ किया ना, आई सेड समथिंग रॉन्ग. तो वो जो भी था 22/7 इंटू 7 इंटू 7 इंटू हाइट 1 इंटू 1000 लीटर, ऐसे कुछ तो था वो. सो जो भी आता है, आई डोंट नो व्हाट द एग्जैक्ट नंबर वाज. क्या आएगा? 154 ना, 154,000. आई डोंट. या सो डैश इज सेइंग स्लॉट 2 में क्वेश्चन था लॉग्स का, log 125 to the base 5. In the afternoon slot, the question was log of something x minus 2 to the base 2. वो वाला था. आफ्टरनून में उसको log 125 to base 5 कर दिया, which would have been 3. log 1/16 to the base 2, so 2 raised to -4. So 5 minus 4 will be 1. Very similar questions to slot. वो भी बोल रहा ना, it's very eerily similar to slot 1 के questions. So nothing to. Ayush is saying how easy or tough is it to convert SIBM or SCMHRD? They are not very difficult, I would say. कर सकते हो. You just have to be smart about stuff. That's it. They break it down into very smaller or very a lot of parts. So even if you underperform in one or two parts, I think it is still manageable. But I think it's a very I would not say easy. कोई भी call easy नहीं होता convert करने के लिए. Especially when you have that 1:7, 1:8 का ratio. But I think it is manageable. कर सकते हो convert. Just that you have to start your preparation slightly earlier, because ये process थोड़े जल्दी हो जाते हैं. So people are undercooked, and if you have prepared well, fantastic. फिर तो मतलब there is nothing stopping you. ठीक है. Was there any TSD question? San, in the morning slot there was a TSD question. Which was a train is running at a speed of 72 kilometers per hour. It crosses a bridge of length, I don't remember how many, but I think it crosses a bridge of length 160 meters in 20 seconds. How much time will it take to pass a pole? Yeah, how much time will it take to pass a boy who is standing somewhere, not on the track, somewhere else? राइट, तो वो था. तो इट्स बेसिकली 200 meters and 200 meter per second. तो इट विल गेट कैंसल आउट, विल गेट 10 seconds. दैट वाज द आंसर आई थिंक फॉर दैट. तो बहुत ही स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड था, और कुछ भी मेरे को टीएसडी का याद नहीं आ रहा. नो सर्कुलर मोशन, नो नो कॉम्प्लिकेटेड क्वेश्चंस ऑन टीएसडी. वेरी सिंपल क्वेश्चंस. ठीक है. ओके. डैश इज सेइंग आफ्टरनून में इवनिंग में एक क्वेश्चन था 30 60 90 ट्रायंगल पे. अगेन मैनेजेबल. आफ्टरनून में द क्वेश्चन वाज 13 14 15 वाला ट्रायंगल. सो एज आई सेड, राइट, very similar. So that is what it looks like. What was the answer of the plots question? Uday, I don't know which question are talking about. Plots wala? Sorry, I don't remember. Something prognostic is before diagnosis. So it is before, you know. Yeah, 10 seconds था. Done. English का की can you discuss? आकाश कुछ है तो बताओ, बट ठीक है. That means most of them are formula based questions. No sign है, formula नहीं लगे. इसके लिए क्या formula चाहिए? A train is crossing a platform and a train is crossing a pole, के लिए कौन सा formula चाहिए? There is nothing required. तो formula वाला कुछ था नहीं, मतलब there was nothing जिसके अंदर you needed some complicated formula. You just needed a bit of observation. As I said, right, एक दो question के अंदर थोड़ा सा you had to be just persistent and just look beyond whatever was shown to you. एक बार वो हो जाता तो you would have been able to crack it nice. तो इतना straightforward. मतलब अगेन मैं स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड बोला, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आंख बंद करके सब आ जाएगा एंड 2+2 पूछा, ऐसा नहीं है. ऑफ कोर्स इट वाज चैलेंजिंग, इट वाज नॉट स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड, मतलब ऐसे कुछ भी लल्लू क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछा था, बट देन इट डिड नॉट रिक्वायर यू टू नो अ लॉट ऑफ रैंडम थिंग्स, जो कैट में शायद पता होना चाहिए, क्वेश्चन टाइप्स पता होना चाहिए, वैसे नहीं था. इफ यू हैड अ गुड अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ कॉन्सेप्ट्स यू वुड हैव सेल्ड थ्रू द सेक्शन. दैट इज व्हाट आई मीन व्हेन आई से इजी. तो इजी बोल रहा है इसका मतलब ये मत बोलना कि अरे सर तो इजी क्वेश्चन तो पूछा ही नहीं था, अगर आप कुछ भी बोलते रहते हो, वो सब मत बोलना. दैट इज व्हाट आई लुकिंग. स्लॉट 1 36x और 36y. ओके, आई वेगली रिमेंबर व्हाट यू आर ट्राइंग टू से, बट मेरे को लगता है y था वो, फ्रॉम व्हाट आई रिमेंबर, बिकॉज 25 इज द नंबर दैट यू गेट, स्क्वायर्स है ना, सो 25th है तो y होना चाहिए, जितना मेरे को एकदम वेगली आई रिमेंबर. आफ्टर कंप्लीटिंग एग्जाम द स्कोर कार्ड टेल्स which pops up its snap. I accidentally just click submit. I don't think it will work. It will be a problem, Abhilasha. Don't worry about it. तो लास्ट में अगर वो लॉन्च वाले स्क्रीन तक आके पहुंच गए थे तो आई थिंक दैट शुड बी गुड इनफ. इतना इशू नहीं होना चाहिए. इट्स ओके. आई डोंट थिंक इट वाज अ प्रॉब्लम. ओके, चैतन्य सिंह, कोई तो एक क्वेश्चन आया था हेक्सागोन पेरीमीटर का. दिस वाज आई थिंक इन द इवनिंग स्लॉट. वाज द आंसर टू दैट 120. या मनवा, आई होप आई एम प्रोनाउंसिंग योर नेम करेक्टली. 159. Most questions were really easy to do using options. Just checking options would give you clues. Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of serious competition preparing for ZAT. I think Snap is better for us now. And I don't think so यार. मतलब ZAT is a different animal altogether, right? तो ZAT के अंदर तो अलग ही सीन चल रहा होगा, वो तो अलग बात करेंगे कभी. But it is what it is. Priya is saying 36x. I don't know. I thought कि कुछ I vaguely remember कि squares थे वहां पे. So maybe that's why I wrote it. 24 भी हो सकता है. मेरे को exactly याद नहीं आ रहा क्या, which one are you referring to? बट मतलब इट वॉज एन इजी वन. इट वॉज अ वेरी ऑब्वियस क्वेश्चन, उतना मेरे को याद है. ठीक है. राकेश 4:30 to 5:30 ऐसे राइट. वेरी वेरी अनकैनी, मतलब जो भी क्वेश्चन अभी बता भी रहे लोग, वेरी वेरी अनकैनीली सिमिलर. तो स्लॉट 4:30 to 5:30 आई थिंक विल स्टिल रिमेन अराउंड दिस. अगेन 50-ish, 50-55 क्वेश्चन के बीच में मोस्टली योर स्नैप का कॉल्स विल लाई. And people who are like very good, brilliant would have attempted near 60 questions. That is the idea. And many people would have attempted 60 questions. So last के 2-3 क्वेश्चन है थोड़ा, मतलब if you are already reached there, you might as well attempt those 3 questions and try to gain an advantage. That is the idea. How was the LOD this year? Josuki, very easy, very 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 easy, very straightforward. Not very difficult. Fairly manageable. If you had like decent basics, बहुत easily manageable. ठीक है. And Akash, you can see what I think for 99 percentile. 99 percentile, I think around 46 marks is what the cutoff should be. Let's see. Alright, पेपर कितना डिफिकल्ट था यार? नहीं था उतना डिफिकल्ट, मतलब go through the entire analysis again, but it wasn't very difficult. It was fairly managed. All right, chalo. So on that note, I think we'll close it. I'll come up with a session maybe in which we'll discuss the various question types that were there and कुछ additional preparation that you might want to do for attempts 2 and 3. तो वही बात discuss करेंगे अच्छे से कुछ चीजें, and then I think you'll get more clarity about this, right? So yeah, guys, if you like the stream, do leave a like. If you have something to comment, do let me know. If you are asking about some question, please let me know. थोड़ा STEM भी बता दोगे तो मेरे को थोड़ा easy होगा to answer or to remember, recollect, right? वो सब चीजें करेंगे and then I think we should be good to go. चलो, alright. So on that note, I'll close this and I'll see you again in the next session. कल हम लोग के बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग सेशन, कल नहीं कर रहे हैं, मंडे को हम लोग बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग सेशन कर रहे हैं. So make sure that you tune in for that and I'll see you in a couple of days. And before that, if you have anything, just let me know in the comment section or you can join the Telegram channel that exists. And usme you will get a lot of insights as well. Chalo, so I'll end the stream now. Thank you everyone for turning up and wish you all the best for your today's attempt and for the upcoming tests that you're going to take. I hope all of you do well and I'll see you again in the next video.